proud to see the Vietnamese Canadian community come out today to support our Liberal leader, Justin Trudeau.
And as well, tonight we are pleased to have with us the Honourable Ahmed Hussein, the Liberal member for York South Western. Và ngày hôm nay chúng ta có thân sự hiện diện của ông Ahmed Hussein, đảng tự do cho vùng York South Western. Xin quý vị chào có thể tập lớn cho ông Ahmed Hussein.
Ahmed's story is not unlike other people who have come to this country to make it their home, but it is unique in my view. He came here as a refugee after his family fled from Somalia to Kenya. He came to Canada when he was 16. He was alone, studied hard, worked tirelessly, joined the running team at his school, and with this persistence and generosity of Canadians, he succeeded. Not only to further his studies in university and go to law school to become a lawyer, but he also became a member of Parliament. But wait, what's more impressive is that the Right Honourable Justin Trudeau recognized his skills and talent. Today, he is working for an inclusive Canada, a Canada that ensures that the services he was able to access as a young person growing up are preserved and strengthened for future generations. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming the Honourable Ahmed Hussein.
Thank you so much, Kian and Julia, and everyone who organized this. It's really great to join all of you, our friends from the Vietnamese Canadian community. I'm so honored and pleased to join you here this evening. I want to also welcome our dear friend, our leader, our Prime Minister. This is someone who cares deeply about the present and future of Canada, whether it is protecting our environment, growing our economy, making sure that there is more opportunities for young Canadians, making sure that we protect the retirement of seniors, making sure that we have inclusive growth in this country, which we haven't had for a really long time. Making sure that working families have that little bit more support and more money in their pockets. Making sure that small businesses can succeed once again with a lower tax rate. This is someone, every time that I've approached and knocked on his door, he's been accessible. And he is someone who deeply cares about the future of this country, about social cohesion. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming my friend, my leader, our Prime Minister, the Right Honourable Justin Trudeau.
Thank you, Ahmed, for being here. Thank you for this wonderful evening. Thank you for that wonderful introduction. But mostly, thank you for coming out tonight, for being part of this evening. I know it's not a super beautiful day outside, but to have come out to participate in something fundamentally democratic, to participate in the kinds of conversations we need to have about how we're building a better future is always incredibly encouraging to me. The Vietnamese Canadian community is one that has contributed a tremendous amount to our communities, to our country, and the opportunity to come together, to say thank you, but also to talk about how we're going to continue to build a better Canada, continue to work hard to build a better future for our kids and our grandkids is something that binds us all together as Canadians. We're in a moment right now where this year there's going to be an election, and therefore we're going to be making choices about the kind of path we have to go forward. And of course, in an election there's always going to be lots of different perspectives put forward, and people challenging us to think in different ways. And I think that's a really important part of our democracy. And I know a number of you tonight would have noticed that there were some protesters outside. That's okay. That's an important part of how people express themselves and share their views and their political opinions. And we are lucky to be in a country where people can express themselves freely and share their preoccupations directly with their political leaders. And that's something we can all have. It's very easy to see people who are angry and trying to make a point and either dismiss them or feel that they're getting in our way. But it's really, really important that we try to understand them as well. People are anxious in this country and indeed around the world. People are anxious about the changes that are going on around them as global supply chains set up, as jobs get displaced, as new technologies like artificial intelligence and automation become more and more important. There are a lot of people who are worried about what the future holds for them and their family. And unfortunately, we're also in a time where people are looking for easy answers, and unfortunately, some politicians are all too ready to try and give them those easy answers. When in fact, we know, many of you have gone through many different challenges in your professional career, in your business career, in your personal lives, in your travels through this world. We know that nothing comes easily. But we also know that when we work together, lean on each other, and believe that we are capable of solving the big challenges we're facing, we have a better chance of solving those challenges than if we spend our time pointing fingers and trying to find out who to blame for what we're facing. And that's sort of the moment we're in right now in our politics, not just in Canada, but around the world, where there are people out there trying to offer very compelling, easy answers that say, we can turn back the clock. We can hold back the tide of transformations of the world. And we can protect this little corner of our community and keep things the way they used to be, or bring them back to the way they used to be. I think we can all understand that that's a very compelling idea now and then. When we feel a storm coming, it's likely that we feel like hunkering down and just holding on for the storm to pass. Except I don't think that's what has made Canada successful over these past decades. I don't think that reflects on what Canadians are capable of. And an extraordinary example of exactly that for me is the Vietnamese Canadian community. So many of you came here, you yourselves or your parents, grandparents, fleeing war, conflict, challenges, arriving here with very little in your pockets, but with tremendous hopes that you were going to be able to build a better life for yourselves, but mostly for your kids and your grandkids. And you worked hard. And you built these communities. And you contributed massively to this country over the years. Two things. First of all, a really big kaboom. And secondly, I say, that's how it works. That is the story of this country. Through generations and even centuries, people coming to this land, rolling up their sleeves, and building a better life for themselves. Helped by the people who've been here before, in the original case, Indigenous peoples on whose land we stand still, and who we need to build better partnerships with and relationships with. But that story of welcoming people and knowing that as people come to this country and build success, two things. Both we create better success for everyone, and two, we do change things. We challenge the way things used to be. We learn from the very best of what people arriving in this country bring with us. They bring different perspectives. They bring different ways of thinking. They bring new solutions and positive generation of jobs and growth and success. And the success we create here in Canada ripples around the world, either directly with links to families and friends back home, but also in the example of what a country and a society can do when we recognize that differences are a source of strength, never a source of weakness. Mais ça exige du courage. Ça exige de nous que nous soyons confiants par rapport à l'avenir. Et c'est ça le grand défi de ces années-ci. Doing this properly, being convinced that diversity is a source of strength, requires courage, and it requires confidence in yourself. Because we will get challenged with different ways of doing things and new solutions that we will have to learn. We'll have to adapt, and we'll have to grow, we'll have to challenge ourselves. But that is how society evolves. So, in this time of election, you're going to hear a lot of people offering different things. We're quite proud of what we've been able to do over the past 3.5 years as a government. We looked at the challenge the world is facing. The world is facing a very similar challenge right now when it comes to the economy. More and more people, hardworking families in the middle class, are feeling like the growth and the success that's happening in their country, in the big businesses around them, isn't translating to ordinary people. And more, the idea of progress, that every generation works really, really hard to build greater opportunities for the next generation, suddenly seems like it might not hold anymore. That maybe we've gotten to some sort of peak and it's as good as it gets and our kids are going to find it harder than we found it. And that seems completely wrong, because that's not what we've all worked for so hard through our whole lives. And the world is facing this challenge in all developed economies of how to make sure that the people who work hard to form the core of our country, our middle class, feel confident and successful. So what we did is, instead of looking at what was the Stephen Harper approach to growing the economy, the conservative approach, which said, let's give benefits and advantages to the wealthiest, and they will create growth that eventually will find its way to everyone. It'll trickle down into jobs for everyone. Well, unfortunately, that really hasn't worked, not in Canada, not anywhere else. So we decided to take a different approach. In 2015, when we got elected, the very first thing I did was lower taxes for the middle class and raise them on the wealthiest 1% of Canadians. And what it was about was making sure that everyone has a real and fair chance to succeed. We delivered a Canada Child benefit that not only helps 9 families out of 10, but has lifted 300,000 kids out of poverty across this country. We've continued to invest in our communities, to invest in infrastructure, to invest in housing. We recognize how difficult it is to buy your first home when you're a millennial starting out, when you're a new arrival in this country. And that's why we've said, when you're buying your first home, we're going to give you an interest-free, fee-free mortgage from CMHC that will be worth 5% of the value of your home, 10% if it's a new home to encourage new buildings, and that is actually going to reduce average mortgage payments by hundreds of dollars a month and make home ownership more affordable. We know that small businesses are the driver of our success in our economy, the greatest employers, the greatest drivers of growth. That's why we lowered small business taxes to 9%, which is the lowest in the OECD right now, the lowest of all the because we know that hardworking small business women and men are the core of our success. But we also know that preparing for the future is really important, which is why we increased by 50% loans and bursaries for low and middle income students. We've made it so you don't have to start paying back your student loans until you're making at least $25,000 a year. We've made the first 6 months after you graduate interest-free for your student loans to help our students get the right education they need. We're taking care of our seniors by investing in housing for seniors, by increasing the guaranteed income supplement for seniors by nearly $1,000 for our most vulnerable single seniors. We're making sure we're supporting the people who've worked hard to build our success over so many years. And at the same time, we're investing in science. We're investing in innovation. We're investing in the kinds of things that are going to mean that Canadians will continue to lead the world in the kinds of solutions that the world needs most, whether it's balancing a strong and growing economy with a protected and cherished environment, whether it's figuring out how to make sure that everyone is included and has a real and fair chance to succeed, whether it's figuring out how to be a positive voice on the world stage that brings people together and shows that the best way for a country to succeed is to make sure that everyone within that country has an opportunity to succeed. That's been the promise of Canada, and that's what we're going to continue on. So my friends, I want to say thank you so much for being here tonight, for your support, but thank you in advance for the thoughtful engagement I know you and the entire community, as it always has, is going to continue to have in this important choice we face as Canadians this year. We're going to be picking the path forward in terms of who forms government this coming year. We have a plan that has worked to give us the lowest unemployment levels in 40 years in this country. We've seen Canadians create over 900,000 new jobs. Our debt to GDP ratio, our fiscal health is one of the best amongst our neighbor countries, and indeed going down every year. We are on the path to sustainability fiscally. We are doing the kinds of things that are both doing right by our most vulnerable and well for all Canadians, because the economy is growing and we're doing it by facing the challenges we face positively, optimistically, confidently, but also realistically. We're seeing floods right across the country right now. We're seeing the impacts of increased climate change. And that means we have to take actions both to fight climate change and ensure that it's affordable for ordinary Canadians. That's why we put a price on pollution. It's very simple. It's very simple. The pollution that's been causing climate change has been free for companies, for big businesses. It's been free to pollute for far too long in this country. We put a price on pollution, so it costs more to pollute, and at the same time, we give back more money to families than the extra price is going to cost them on average in a given year. So families find this cost affordable while we protect our environment for future generations. Conservatives are worried about the cost. The fact is, look at what it's going to cost to clean up these floods. Look at what it costs every year to rebuild after wildfires. The cost of inaction on climate change is exorbitant. We need to take responsible steps, and that's exactly what we've done, fighting climate change and making it affordable for Canadians. It's very simple. You can't have a plan for the future of the economy if you don't have a real plan to fight climate change. And that's what this is all about. It's a plan for all of you. It's a vision that knows that when we empower you as small business owners who become successful, as employers, as employees, as moms and dads and grandparents, as young people starting out in your lives, you need to have a government that is on your side and tangibly putting forward solutions that are going to make a difference in your lives. That, my friends, is what we're all about. Merci beaucoup d'être ici ce soir. Thank you so much for being here. Come on, everyone.
First, I would like to introduce myself. My name is David. I'm one of the organizers today, and beside me is Mr. Gang. I will introduce him later. But first, I would like to thank you, the Prime Minister, Right Honorable Justin Trudeau, and the Ministers Ahmed Hussein, who came here today. Please come up, and we would like to thank you for your spending time today with us tonight, this evening. It's our privilege to have you here, and we wish you all the best. I'd like to introduce you Mr. Ngan. He's well known in our community. He's a celebrity. Everybody here knows him. But to sum up, the organizer asked me, who's Mr. Ngan? I said Mr. Ngan is a writer, equivalent to Stephen King. He's an MC, equivalent to Johnny Carson, and he's a talk show host, equivalent to Oprah. So combine all together, we got him. He's famous across Canada, around the world. And we're lucky to have you here today, and Minister Hussein, and we're lucky to have you together today. And I want to ask you, why are you here today?
In politics, we don't see many good-looking people. We only see people like Donald Trump or Kim Jong-un. But our Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau here, is so exceptional. I remember 5 years ago, the first time I met him at the New Year festival, the CNE. I asked him, what are you doing here? A handsome guy like you should go to Hollywood and be in the movies. He answered, I want to do something more important for Canada. The way he talked to me, seriously and sincerely, and the look on his face made me believe in him. And indeed, for the last 4 years, he's been doing not only something, but many, many things we believe is good and important for this country. That's why I'm here tonight. I'm an old man, 75. I'm a very busy man, and of course a lazy man too.
And Andy, you won't put it up, but a very handsome man.
But I told myself I had to be here to say a few words. Mr. Prime Minister, you have a long way to go, and you have my support all the way.
Before we finish here, I witnessed many times Mr. Ngan tell a joke to the U.S. audience about Donald Trump and Prime Minister, and oh, can you do that again? About how lucky you are to have a better-looking one.
Every time I look at you, you remind me of myself when I was young. Only difference is that I'm a little bit too short. Thank you very, very much for coming here. And
thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you very much, everyone.
We will have some photo session coming up with the Prime Minister, but we're going to have line up on the side. And please, we have a professional photographer to take picture for you. Every you will take turn to take pictures, so please stay up to the line and we'll take picture with the Prime Minister.
And there's no need to push. I will stay until the very end. We will get pictures with everyone. So thank you very much for coming.